All right, so the day has arrived. I have finally purchased not one, but 2 eyeshadow palettes by Natasha Denona. I am sorry, wallet. I spent $258 on eyeshadow, okay? Don't forget me on your will. So up until this point, I believe the only Natasha Denona product I've tried is her foundation, which I did not like. I have a whole video on it. First of all, Natasha Denona eyeshadow palettes are pricey. And there hasn't been an eyeshadow palette by her that I've been like into enough to want to spend $129 on it until the Safari palette launched. This was the first one where as soon as I saw this, I knew this was going to be my first Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette purchase because not only is it all matte, but the shades in here were just too beautiful to resist. And then I just figured, let's go all out and try out the other new palette. This is the gold palette by Natasha Denona. I figured I would just try this one for you guys also because there are some shimmer, glitter, metallic shades in here, and I wanted to see how the formula of those were. And I'm doing 2 different eyeshadow looks in this video. The first one using the Safari palette, and the second one is what I'm wearing right now using the gold palette. And ultimately, we're just trying to figure out if these palettes by Natasha Denona are worth your money. So both of these are new launches. You can find them on Sephora. With eyeshadow palettes, I do have some super affordable palettes like under 20 bucks that I absolutely love and that I reach for more often than a lot of my high-end ones. So for an eyeshadow palette to be $129, it's gonna just have to be totally worth it for me and like blow my mind, basically. So if you're excited for this video and you enjoy it while you're watching, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. If you're new here, I upload every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific time. You can join the Bayrito family and subscribe. I also just posted a Shadow and Schmooze for Monday's video that has some life updates and random things in there. So you can check out that video too. I'll put it in the eye. Okay, we are very close, so you guys can really see how the shadows go on and everything. I'm going to start out with the Safari palette and do an all matte eyeshadow look, and then I'm going to wipe it off and do a full other look with the Natasha Denona gold palette. So you guys are getting 2 separate looks, one from each palette. I was going to just do one look using both palettes, but then I figured I don't know how many people have both palettes or would purchase both palettes. You're probably debating between either one, my guess would be. So I just wanted to separate them out and see which one I kind of like better. And obviously one is all matte and one's all shimmer, so it's just going to depend on what you want to. Oh, she's a beauty. Okay, you get a very large mirror on here and you get 15 shades in this palette. I always prime my eyes with my MAC Soft Ochre paint pot. Oh, I just realized I don't have any brows on. Okay, after I prime my eyes, I'm going to just do some quick brows. So usually I do my eyeshadow once my foundation and everything is on, but because I'm not doing a full face because we're doing 2 separate eye looks right now and I don't want to like ruin the foundation and stuff, I'm gonna do a full face for the second look, but for this look I'm just gonna do the eyes. Great. Hopefully that's not an indication of how this eye look is gonna go. All right, so I think my goal is to try to create a comprehensive eye look using as many shades as possible, just so we can test out as many as possible. So I'm gonna start out with the shade Aya, which looks like it's a light cream kind of color. Could be either a lid shade or a transition, depending on your skin tone. I'm obviously trying it as a transition shade. If you're someone who likes to set your eye primer, this could be a good shade for that. My blending brush, by the way, I always use is the Morphe M511, and then I'm going to go in with my Sigma Tapered Blending E35 next. And I'm going to take the shade Tamarind, which is that kind of like camel brown shade, and I'm just going to deepen up the crease with this. Whenever I do eye looks, I usually kind of like fast forward through stuff, so I'm going to try and make this one a little bit more detailed than usual. When you dip your brush into these, there is some powder, like you can see the little powder sitting on top of the pans right now. That doesn't bother me if it's not like overly powder where it makes like a dent in it, like the subculture. This is just like the Anastasia Modern Renaissance kind of powdery, which I don't mind. So far so good. These are blending out easy. Next up on that same brush, I'm going to take Amhara, and I'm going to apply this mostly to the outer half of my eye, right in the same area, right in the crease, but just on the outer half. I'm not going to bring it all the way in like I just did with Tamarind. The good thing about doing eyeshadow first, which I never do, is that you can just wipe off the edges, or you could add tape or something if you wanted to, so you can be a little bit messier on the outer part because you can clean it up after. So that's exciting. Excited to clean it up. Ooh, that's a pretty shade. It doesn't have like too much orange in it, but it does have like a really warm peachy tone to it. almost like a deep melon. And my eyes are two totally different shapes. And when I'm not like going like this as I apply eyeshadow, my eyelid kind of like droops on top of itself. So I basically just try and like, as I'm doing eyeshadow, I try and relax my eyes a little bit and look straight on just to see if they're looking similar, because it looks totally different when you go like this versus when your eyes are just like sagging and chilling. And I am bringing this shade down right into my lash line right there. I'm just kind of blending inward a little bit. Okay, I just kind of had an urge to use, what the heck is the shade? Fata Morgana? The matte blue shade in here all over my lid and do like a really red kind of crease. I think that's what we're gonna do. So first I'm gonna go in with Tribe on my Sigma E44. This brush is awesome because it's pointed and it's just firm enough to get like right where you want it. So I'm gonna take Tribe. Actually, I might bring this into the, yeah, I'm gonna bring this into the crease since I do wanna put that blue and I really want the red to pop in my crease. And I'm bringing this pretty far in. Tribe is a little bit less powdery than the other shades so far. I'm not getting as much kick up in the pan. Blend that out. I'm gonna go back with the Sigma E35 and I'm gonna take Desert Date, which is a kind of light orange shade, and just blend that right on top. The way that these are blending together is so beautiful. I love when matte shades do this, where they just like fade into one another. So far, really liking this formula. It has just the right amount of stiffness to it. I don't like super powdery eyeshadows where I feel like I can't like control them. So for me, these ones have enough grip, but I can still blend them out. I think I'm gonna go with that dark blue shade. So I'm gonna take the Sigma E54 brush. I might go over it with my finger. I usually use my finger for lid shades, but I like to, especially with the darker color, if I'm gonna be putting it all over my lid, I like to place it with the brush first and then kind of go and pack it on with my finger. I feel like I don't have a matte dark blue shade quite this tone. It looks very wearable. It's not like too, oh, look at that. The tone of this blue is so pretty. I feel like this is a blue that you could wear out without feeling like, holy shit, you have bright blue eyeshadow on your eyes, you know? I mean, you could do that too, do you? But for me, I feel like this is a very wearable, smoky blue. I don't even feel like I need to go in with my finger to make it any more intense. And I am going back in, by the way, and like dipping into the shadow. Just for shits and giggles so we can see, oh, this is soft. This is the first time I'm touching these shadows, by the way. That was super soft, but I'm just curious. So I just want to press this on the lid just to see what it can do with your finger. Oh, so pretty. So just to super lightly blend out the edges, I'm gonna take the E25 brush, Sigma, and I'm gonna go with Desert Date again, that orangey shade. And I'm just going to super, okay, that didn't work. Hopefully this doesn't create like an ugly brown shade. I'm not loving the color that's making. I think that was a bad color choice on my part. I'm gonna go back in with the blue and just touch that up right there. And I'm just gonna take that same brush. I'm not gonna add a shadow, so I'm just gonna get whatever's left over off there, just so I can lightly blend out the edges a bit. Okay, I don't know how this is gonna go layered on top of this blue, but let's try it out. I'm gonna try this shade Rhino, which is kind of like a muted teal color. I'm gonna use the Citron Lace 954, and I'm just going to press that right towards my inner corner. I just want it like a little bit lighter right there, but I still want it really deep. Uh-oh, my brush was a little bit wet, and I think I just got that shadow kind of wet. Yeah, I did. Whoops. That kind of shows up on top of there a little bit. I'm gonna go in with a black liner for my waterline. Cleaning that up a tiny bit. I'm just gonna go back in now so I can get that right where I want it. That's looking a little bit funky right there. Could just be because of my brush being wet and stuff from wiping it off, so I think that's why. I'm just really curious what this stone shade looks like, so we're just gonna put it down. Probably not what I would use on the lower lash line usually, but I'm just curious. It's obviously very light. I would probably use this all over my lid. I'm gonna take the brown shade, which is Shea, one of the brown shades, and I'm just gonna press that right against my lower lashes. Ooh, okay, I'm feeling that brown. I really like the texture of these mattes. They're soft, but again, they don't like just blend away. They're not too powdery. I'm gonna go in with Voodoo. It is a dark purplish brown. Just layer that right on top. Oh, that's pretty. Need something for the inner corner and right down here. Savannah could be pretty. Let's try Savannah. It's the kind of army green shade. I'm just gonna press that right on the lower inner corner. And pretty shade, it's just a little bit darker than I want. I actually might try Stone again and just layer that on top. That's a really unique shade, I feel like. That would be super pretty all over the lid. Kind of regretting not putting that on the lid. Ooh, I like that. That shade is super pretty. Stone so far, I think is my favorite. That's super pretty. Okay, as I'm editing this back, I can't get over how patchy this blue shade looks on my lid. For whatever reason, I could not see that at all in real life. So I don't know if it's just like the HD camera picking it up or something, but it looks way patchier than what I could see with my own eyes. Try and add a little bit of stone on the top too, right here. Looking like a little bit patchy right there. I'm pretty sure that's because my brush was a little bit wet. I don't think that's the shadow's fault because it's not looking like that on this eye. It's looking worse on camera. It's only on the monitor I can see it. Because the next look I'm gonna do like full on makeup, I'm not gonna actually glue on false lashes and do eyeliner and everything because like I said, I'm just washing it out. But just so you can get an idea of how it looked with false lashes, here you go. Wow. Can you tell? I definitely think with false lashes and a full face on, I would like this look. The matte shadows, like I said, I think the only issue I ran into was just with my own fault when I wet the brush. Other than that, they all blended out easily. I love that stone shade. I'm excited to use that stone shade again. I feel like that'll be a pretty layering shade, and I think it could be layered on a lot of different cool tone colors. So I think I used all of them except these four, and just looking at these tones together, I mean, that could be an eye look right there. I'm gonna wash off this eye look, wash off my face, put on some foundation, and then we'll be back to play around with the NATASHA DENONA gold palette. Okay, so now we're about to do the full shebang. So I have all of my face makeup on, blush, bronzer, highlight, everything. My eyes are primed with MAC Paint Pot again. We're gonna go in for the gold. First thoughts, I actually feel like this looks kind of cheap. I don't know if it's just the metallic or like the stitching or something. I'm not super into it, but I'm sure some people will be. Personally, I just much prefer a hard case like this, also easier to clean. Okay, so my other palette didn't come with this sheet right here that has the shade names on it, probably because they're just printed on the actual packaging. But this one, because the inside is a different material, this is like squishy, which I also don't like as much. For a $129 palette. This feels like foam. Because the shade names aren't printed on there, they do have this sheet right here with the shade names on it that you could either keep in or rip off if you don't care about knowing shade names. So I think I'm gonna do a similar thing and just try and use as many shades as possible. So I'm gonna start out with the shade Sandstone. In this palette, there isn't a light kind of transition shade. So I'm just gonna go in with this one and really blend it in. There's actually 3 shades in here that look pretty similar: Sandstone, Teak, and Aria. I feel like they could have made one a little bit lighter or a little bit darker because those 3, they do have like different tones to them, but they're pretty much the same depth. If you have a deeper skin tone, you could use any one of those 3 as a transition. If you're around my skin tone, there really isn't like a transition shade in here. I'm gonna take my Coastal Scents BR250 and go in with the shade Dijon. I love these tones. Like the mustard yellow pukey kind of tones are my favorite. Ooh, yeah. And I'm gonna do kind of like a little halo with this. Bring it into my inner corner, but then leave the center blank. Oh, that shade, hell yeah. That one is just like blending out like a freaking dream. Loving how the pigment with these shadows stays there as you blend. I have so many potential options for a shimmery lid shade. Like I said, I haven't swatched these yet, so I'm not sure which one I want to go in with. Oh, look at that shade. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to go in with that. Oh, that one looks super pretty. It's like a wet metallic kind of bronze. That was Alchemist. Let's see, Oro. That's like a bit more of a yellow gold than I usually like. Ooh, that one looks really pretty too. I'm gonna use this lower left corner one, Brass. Me, the way the brass just felt, definitely feels like a shadow you probably want to use with your finger, so I'm going to do that. Oh my god. I am getting fallout, just felt. Oh. It is falling on my face. I can like feel it falling, but oh my gosh. Dude, I can't even imagine how this would look wet. It looks like a wet pigment right now. Yeah, that's gorgeous. Look at that. Holy shitsies. Ooh, yeah, you can see a lot of glitter on my under eyes. I want to put a shade right here to blend into that. So I'm debating between that white shade, which is Sparks. That one looks like layered. It could be really pretty since this almost has like a bit of duochrome to it too. I think I'm gonna try Sparks and I might wet that. On this palette, they described a few different shimmers, glitters. There are different formulas to the shades that look like metallic, the not matte shades. And this one definitely looks like one that is more of like a glitter. Like I think this would definitely benefit from being wet. Man, I have glitter on my upper lip right now. So I've got my MAC Fix Plus here. This is always what I use to wet my eyeshadows. So I'm going to dip my brush in that white shade. Yeah, so you can see it on the brush. It's definitely like a little bit loose, so I would definitely spray this one. And then I'm just going to press that on my inner corner. So even wet, I'm getting tons of fallout, which again, isn't a big deal if you are someone who likes to do your shadow first, but if you're like me and you do your shadow after your foundation, then it could be something to consider. I'm actually not getting like that much of a pop with that. I'm gonna try that again and really dig my brush in there. It's kind of going everywhere when you put your brush in since it is very loose. So I'm gonna try this again. Let's wet this real good right over that. It still isn't looking like, I don't know, it just looks a little bit different than I was expecting. I'm gonna take my finger, which is dry, and just try and pat this a little bit on top. Like it doesn't have a whole lot of pigment to it on its own. I feel like that shade could be a little bit better. I don't know, like it doesn't wow me as much as that other shade I just put on. I feel like it's not picking up on camera. I have so much glitter underneath my eyes right now. So I want to take one of the matte brown shades to deepen up my outer V right here. So I'm gonna just take, I think the darkest one. Let's go for it. I'm gonna take Log and I'm just going to press Log right on the very outer part. Oh, that's a pretty brown. And I'm just lightly blending that a little bit inwards and up a little bit into the crease. Dude, that lid shade is so unreal. I really want to go back with Dijon to put right here, but I think I'm gonna try a new one. Let's try Aria. And I'm just going to apply that right above my crease just to kind of cut it a little bit right there. I'm gonna try this same brush down on my lower lash line. So I'm gonna use that same shade, Aria, to blend under here. Ooh, and poke myself in the eyeball. If you're gonna be using any of the shimmer shades in this palette, I would say you'll probably have to do your foundation after your eyeshadow. I'm gonna go back in with Dijon. Oh my gosh, I love this shade. I'm gonna take that dark brown Log again and press that right underneath the liner, right underneath my lashes. Just want a super smoky lower lash line. I'm gonna be putting on lashes and they're gonna be pretty intense, so I don't care if I have like a pretty bottom heavy lash line right now. I'm kind of debating what to put on right here. I might try that white again, just because it might look different since it's not layered on top of a gold. Let's try it. I'm gonna give it one more shot. So I'm really coating it on here and I'm gonna spray it again. Press that right there. Okay, I like that better on its own, like not layered on top of the gold. That shade is just like a little bit lacking to me. So for lashes, I'm gonna use my Eyelure Talia. I'm not sure if I wanna do liner. I think I'm gonna first put on the lashes and then I might add a little bit of liner on top. All right, so the rest of my makeup is on. I'm freaking in love with this lipstick color. I feel like this is gonna be the perfect like holiday red. This is BH Cosmetics. I can never read their freaking label. Maria? I think that says Maria. Just to cover up the lash band, I put a little bit of liner over top, put my usual mascara on my lower lash line, and then that's it. So I cannot get the glitter. There's like a massive amount of glitter and fallout, like I've said 50,000 times now, but I can't get it off my face. Usually my duo fiber brush will just like flick it off, but this stuff is staying on. So for me, That does make me kind of not want to reach for this palette over other shimmer palettes that I have, just because, like I said, I do prefer to do my full face first and then put on my eyeshadow. So if I were to use this palette again and I wanted to go in with the shimmers and glitter shades in here, I would definitely have to do my eyeshadow first. So just keep that in mind if you're someone who does prefer to do your foundation first. With this palette, you might not want to do that. So knowing myself, I probably won't reach for the glitter shades in this palette for that reason. And for a $129 eyeshadow palette, you want to be using all the shadows, or I do. Other downside with this palette to me is just the packaging. For $129, I don't know why this is foam. It feels very cheap. The Safari palette, on the other hand, I'm digging. The shades, just the palette, the packaging, I feel like I'm just going to get a lot more use out of this palette. Again, it just depends on your preferences for eyeshadows, what you usually reach for. The shades in the Safari palette, to me, are unique enough to where I don't feel like I have every single shade already in other palettes, but they're still wearable. Like, I still look at this and I can see right off the bat like 4 or 5 different eyeshadow looks I could use on an everyday basis that wouldn't be too intense and that are wearable. So if your eyeshadow preferences are similar to mine and you're debating between one or the other, right now I'm definitely leaning towards the Safari palette. I am going to keep trying out the gold palette just to see if the other shades, like some of the bronzy shades, have as much fallout. If they do, I might be returning this one, honestly, because for $129, if I'm not going to get use out of half the shades, like all of the shimmery shades, then I don't really think it's worth it, especially if I have the matte shades in the Safari palette. But formula-wise, matte shades for Natasha Denona out of these two palettes, I give 10 out of 10. Beautiful, blended out, pigmented, they didn't blend away, they weren't too powdery. The shimmery shades that I tried, just those few, on average I would give about 7 out of 10. Again, just because of the fallout, and then that lighter inner corner shade I wasn't like a super huge fan of. But then the lid shade, fallout aside, I would give a 10 out of 10. Like, that one was stunning. So I think it just depends on what you look for in eyeshadow palettes. Do I think that these are worth $129? It kind of kills me. Even though these are super pretty, I don't know if they're worth $129 yet. That price tag is just really, really hard for me to justify, even though I do love, you know, the formulas and shades in this palette specifically. $129 is a lot for an eyeshadow palette. For me, this is gonna have to be something that I reach for all the time for it to be worth it for me. I have $10 eyeshadow palettes that I love, so for $129, it has to like just totally blow me out of the water. So I will update you guys on both of these palettes in probably the next Raves and Rejects video as I've tried them out some more. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and liked seeing the 2 different looks. Again, I'll link everything on my face down below in the description box, including the foundation I used, bronzer, blush, highlight, everything that's on my face is always down below. But if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, you can join the Bayrito family and subscribe. I upload every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific time. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.